Reading in English. Why it's important. Hello everyone. If you're watching this video, you've likely wondered at some point, why is reading in English so important? Whether you're just starting to learn English or have been studying for a while, reading plays a huge role in improving your skills. By the end of this video, you'll be ready to grab an English book and dive in. Let's talk about why reading in English matters. Why is reading important? Is reading really that important compared to just listening or watching videos? The answer is a big yes. When you read, you're not just learning new words. You're seeing how they fit together in real contexts. This is crucial because learning a language isn't just about memorizing words. It's about understanding how they work together to form sentences and express ideas. Think of reading as the blueprint that shows you how to build the language. Building vocabulary. Reading is one of the best ways to improve your vocabulary. When you read, you come across new words in different contexts, which helps you remember them better. For example, the meal was so awful that they couldn't finish it. You can infer that awful means something unpleasant based on the context. By reading, you learn words in a natural way rather than just memorizing vocabulary lists. Improving pronunciation. Reading out loud can even help with your pronunciation. It may sound strange, but when you read out loud, you're practicing the rhythm and flow of English. It gives you time to focus on how words sound, and you don't need anyone else to practice with. Just start with a simple story or even a children's book. Over time, you'll build confidence in speaking. Understanding grammar reading helps you understand grammar without having to focus too much on rules. When you read sentences like, "She has been working here for 2 years," you're learning grammar naturally by seeing how it's used in real situations. This is called implicit learning, where your brain picks up grammar patterns without needing to memorize complicated rules. Exposure to different styles and accents. English is spoken in many different countries, each with its own accent and style. When you read books or articles from different places, you get exposed to these variations. This helps you prepare for real-life conversations, whether you're in the US, England, or Australia. You'll also pick up informal language and slang, which can make you sound more natural when speaking. Building confidence. The more you read, the more confident you'll become in using English. Seeing words and phrases repeatedly in different contexts helps you feel more comfortable with the language. For example, if you're in a conversation and recognize a word you've read before, you'll feel more confident responding. Reading builds your language intuition, helping you know what sounds right in English without overthinking. What should beginners read? So, what should you read as a beginner? Start simple. You don't need to dive into complicated novels. Here are a few ideas. Short stories or blogs. These often use simple language and are fun to read. Graded readers. These are books designed for English learners, with different levels of difficulty. Children's books. Don't be shy about reading children's books. They use simple language and are often illustrated, making them more engaging. News articles. Many websites offer news in simple English, helping you stay informed while practicing. Blogs and forums. If you have a hobby, find blogs or forums on that topic in English to practice reading about things you enjoy. In addition to reading, watching videos is an excellent way to improve your English skills. Watch my videos. They are very simple and perfect for beginners. I also create videos on short stories, which are a great way to practice listening and reading at the same time. By combining reading with watching videos, you'll make faster progress in both comprehension and fluency.
You are the light of my life. Will you marry me? Daniel asked, his voice soft. Clara's eyes sparkled with joy, a smile spreading across her face.
Don't worry about
Yes,
understanding if you don't
I will
understand
marry you,
every word.
she replied,
Even
feeling
native
a warm
speakers
glow
don't
of
know
happiness
every word.
wash over her, her cheeks
Focus on the
blushing with
overall
happiness.
meaning,
But
and
little
over
did Clara
time
know
you'll
that
improve.
behind Daniel's sweet words
In
and warm
conclusion,
smile,
reading
there was a
is a
terrible
fantastic
secret.
way to learn English.
Daniel wasn't the man
It helps
he
you
pretended
expand
to
your
be.
vocabulary,
He had a
understand
sinister
grammar,
plan,
and build
one
confidence
that
in using
Clara
the language.
could never have
So,
imagined.
what are you waiting for?
And this was
Pick up an
only
English
the beginning.
book and start reading today.
In a small town called Harmonyville, there once lived a very wealthy man who had 3 beautiful daughters, Clara, Maria, and Lessa. Clara, the eldest, was kind-hearted and trusting. She always believed in the goodness of people and tried to see the best in everyone. Maria, the middle daughter, was more cautious and thoughtful, while Lisa, the youngest, was independent and strong-willed, studying far away at university. One day, a man named Daniel arrived in town. He was tall, handsome, and spoke with such charm that people couldn't help but be drawn to him. But behind his friendly demeanor, Daniel was not the kind man he appeared to be. He was greedy and dangerous, only interested in one thing: money. He had learned that the wealthy man was one of the richest in the region and decided that his best way to get rich was to marry one of his daughters. Daniel had a well-thought-out plan. He knew he had to win over one of the daughters, gain the trust of their father, and then slowly take over the family fortune. He had done something similar before in another town, where his fiancée mysteriously disappeared after an alleged accident. No one ever found out the truth because Daniel was very good at covering his tracks. In this new town, his target was Clara, the eldest daughter. Daniel first approached Clara, who was kind and gentle. She believed in the good in people and was immediately drawn to Daniel's charming nature. He pretended to be a good and caring man, bringing her flowers, writing her thoughtful letters, and always being attentive. Clara fell in love with him quickly. One day, as they strolled along the riverbank, Daniel took Clara's hand and said, "Clara, you are the most incredible woman I have ever met. I feel like the luckiest man in the world to have found you." Clara smiled, feeling happy and secure. They got engaged, and everything seemed perfect. But Daniel was hiding something. He had been engaged before in another town, and his fiancée had mysteriously disappeared. No one knew what happened, but Daniel was responsible. He had meticulously planned everything so that no one suspected him. As time passed, Clara began to notice some strange things. Daniel would disappear for hours, and when she asked him where he had been, his answers were vague and unconvincing. One day, while she was organizing his belongings, she found a hidden letter in his bag. It was from another woman, referring to their past relationship. The tone of the letter was cold and distant, and the woman seemed fearful. Clara's heart raced as she read the words. She realized that Daniel had been hiding something dark. That evening, she confronted him. "Daniel, who is this woman?" Clara asked, holding up the letter. Daniel's face went pale. "Why are you going through my things, Clara?" he said, trying to remain calm. "That's all in the past. It doesn't matter anymore. But what happened to her? Did you hurt her?" Clara's voice trembled. Daniel knew that if Clara told her father, his plan would be ruined. He couldn't let that happen. Panicking, he grabbed her tightly and pushed her into the river. Everyone believed it was an accident, that Clara had accidentally fallen into the water. A few hours later, Clara was gone. No one suspected Daniel. He made sure all evidence was destroyed. The wealthy man was devastated by the loss of his daughter. His heart was broken, but he didn't know the truth. He thought it was a tragic accident and had no idea that Daniel was responsible. Months passed after Clara's tragic death. The entire town believed it was an accident. Daniel disappeared for a while, but then returned. This time, he set his sights on Maria, Clara's sister. Maria lived in a different town and didn't know much about what had happened. She only knew her sister had died in a tragic accident. One afternoon, Maria was sitting in her garden when a man approached her. It was Daniel. "Good afternoon," Daniel said with a pleasant smile. "You must be Maria." Maria smiled lightly. "Yes, that's me. And you are?" "I'm Daniel. I was a friend of your sister Clara. I'm deeply sorry for your loss," Daniel said, his voice gentle. Maria looked sad. "Yes, it was a terrible accident. I miss her every day." Daniel nodded. "She was a wonderful person. I hope we can get to know each other better. I would love to spend more time with you." Maria was touched by his kindness. Over the next few weeks, Daniel spent more time with Maria, just as he had with Clara. He was careful to act like a good man, always polite and kind. Soon, Maria started to trust him, just as Clara had. One day, while sorting through some old letters from Clara, Maria found something troubling. It was a note from her sister, written shortly before Clara died. In the letter, Clara wrote, "I don't trust Daniel anymore. I'm scared of him." Maria's hands trembled as she read the note. What did Clara mean by this? She whispered to herself. A terrible thought crossed her mind. Could Daniel have been involved in Clara's death? That evening, Maria confronted Daniel. She held up the letter. "Daniel, what is this? Why did my sister say she was scared of you?" Daniel's face turned white. He realized Maria was getting too close to the truth. "You don't need to worry about Clara," he said, his voice calm but menacing. Maria stepped back, her heart pounding. Tell me the truth, Daniel. Did you hurt my sister? Daniel's eyes narrowed. He couldn't let Maria expose him. Just like with Clara, he silenced Maria too. He made it look like another accident. Once again, no one suspected him. After Maria's death, Daniel disappeared again. But there was still one more daughter left. Lisa, the youngest. Lisa lived far away and knew very little about Danielle or what had happened to her sisters. All she knew was that they had both died in tragic accidents. One day, while Lisa was tending her garden, she heard a voice behind her. "Hello, Lisa," Daniel said, smiling warmly. Lisa turned around and saw a tall man standing there. "Hello," she said cautiously. "Who are you?" "I'm Daniel. I was close to your sisters, Clara and Maria," he said. "I'm very sorry for your loss." Lisa nodded, but she didn't smile. Something about Daniel felt off. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but she didn't trust him right away. Daniel tried to charm Lisa, just as he had with her sisters. But Lisa was different. She was strong and independent, and she didn't trust people easily. Daniel had to work much harder to win her over. After several months, Daniel finally asked her, "Lisa, will you marry me?" Lisa looked at him thoughtfully. She felt unsure. "I need time to think about it, Daniel." Daniel smiled, hiding his frustration. "Of course. Take all the time you need." Daniel once again played the role of the perfect gentleman. He pretended to care for Lisa deeply, and slowly Lisa began to let down her guard. They spent more time together, and Daniel made sure to be extra careful. He didn't want to make any mistakes this time. Lisa liked Daniel, but she was not as quick to trust as her sisters had been. Still, after a few more months, Daniel asked her again, "Lisa, you are the light of my life. Will you marry me?" Feeling that Daniel was sincere, Lisa smiled and said, "Yes, I will." Daniel thought his plan was finally coming to fruition. He would marry Lisa, gain the trust of her father, and finally get access to the family fortune. But what Daniel didn't know was that someone had been watching him closely. James, a friend of Clara's, had never trusted Daniel. He had been suspicious ever since Clara's death. James had loved Clara deeply, and when Maria also died, he decided to investigate further. James started looking into Daniel's past, searching for clues. Eventually, he found letters from both Clara and Maria that suggested Daniel was involved in their deaths. James immediately went to the wealthy man and said, "Sir, I have to tell you something terrible. I believe Daniel is responsible for Clara and Maria's deaths. Look at these letters." The wealthy man was stunned. How could I have been so blind? he said, his voice filled with sorrow. Daniel must be stopped before he can hurt Lisa. James and the wealthy man made a plan to catch Daniel. They decided to invite Daniel to see some of the property he would inherit after marrying Lisa. They told Daniel they wanted to show him the family's most valuable assets. Daniel, believing everything was going according to plan, agreed to meet them. When Daniel arrived at the property, the wealthy man greeted him warmly. "Daniel, I trust you with my daughter Lisa. After you marry her, you will inherit all of this." Daniel's eyes lit up with greed. "Thank you, sir. I appreciate your trust," he said, his voice smooth. But suddenly, James stepped forward, confronting Daniel. "You are a fraud, Daniel. You hurt Clara and Maria, and I won't let you hurt Lisa." Daniel turned pale, realizing he had been exposed. "You don't have any proof," he sneered, but deep down, he was afraid. The wealthy man, now furious, called the authorities, and they arrived quickly. With James's evidence, they arrested Danielle. As he was taken away, Lisa watched, tears streaming down her face. She felt devastated, realizing she had almost fallen victim to a dangerous man. The wealthy man hugged his daughter, saying, "You are safe now, Lisa. I will always protect you." As time passed, the family began to heal. Clara and Maria were honored in a beautiful ceremony, and the town remembered them as brave and kind-hearted daughters who had fallen victim to a terrible fate. Lisa decided to become a voice for those who had suffered, helping others recognize the warning signs of deceitful people like Danielle. She used her story to help others and ensure that Clara and Maria would always be remembered for their goodness. Through her strength, Lisa turned her pain into purpose, determined to prevent any other families from suffering the same tragedy.